All right. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Our Life, Beginnings and Always. We are in the in-between step 3 and step 4, currently about to start step 4, and I learned, unfortunately, I feel, that step 4 is actually a little bit more of an epilogue rather than something that has moments, I guess. Like, I was really excited to see what moments we were going to see in this next part of our life, but supposedly it's just one long scene talking about everything that's gone on in this part, and while that's fine, I'm really upset because that means we're only that much closer to the end of the series, but I'm still really excited to see what else is going to happen in this game. I'm excited to see what step 4 has to bring with us, for us, whatever. And so we are going to play through it. Let's just start. Okay. And so, your days growing up in the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. In the years that passed since graduation, you'd moved out of your childhood home and made your own way into the world. Okay. You. Me. That's cute. That's cute. That's cute. Okay. I can live alone. I can have pets. I like that it's very specifically, if I live with Cove, his fish is coming with us. That's cute. I also think it'd be really funny in an annoying sort of way if we picked this one. I think we should do it. I think we should go for it. I think we should go for it. And you. Okay. Cool. When I was, I forget, 21 or 23 in this, I had my own business. I had to shut it down because I moved and the market was just not the same. But at the time, I had my own business and it was going pretty good. In the... Oh, fun! This is... I can, like, really choose and add more to this. This is really cool. I guess you'd consider it art. So, your family members went through the same kinds of leaps into independence. Liz and Lee both eventually earned degrees and started fantastic careers in new towns. Good for them. But your mom's and Cove's father still lived on the same street as they had for all those years before. It was comforting to you that there were some things that remained in the old neighborhood. And despite the ever-changing reality of your adult life, your friends were still your friends, though of course things weren't exactly the same for them either. Very recently, Terry publicly came out as a man and switched the spelling of his name to use a Y instead of an I. I knew that. Before we even met Terry, I knew that he was trans, and I was just using the pronouns that the game gave me for the while that we knew him, but that we know him, but that one's not a surprise to me. He also confessed his love for Miranda, which she excitedly reciprocated. They moved in together recently in the city out past Sunset Bird. Derek was as busy as always, but doing well. He always made an effort to keep in touch, and you even saw each other in person occasionally. My TV screen just shut itself like it's going for a full reset. Hopefully it's still cool. I'm gonna continue on. One person who did disappear into the shovel of memories inside your mind was Baxter. After his vacation in Sunset Bird one year, he was just gone. That's sad. There's something going on. Now this one's going crazy. That was a loss you felt. He had become someone you'd considered a friend during those days. And then there's what became of the sad little boy you grew up with, Cove Holden. Your deep effect, ew, gross, for him was something that continued to last unabated over the years. Wow. You didn't want your relationship to change from what it was. He truly thrived in his continued efforts of cultivating loving and supportive relationships with his family and friends. His personality had changed. Yeah, I know. We went from cold nerd to warm jock again. Becoming more open than ever before. Cove was a warm, inviting, considerate man who took the lessons he'd learned over the years to treat the people around him with patience and understanding. When Cove eventually developed a picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, it ended up being a surprise to most based on his past interests. Cove decided against pursuing a degree and focused fully on building up a career. He got a small business of his own teaching surf lessons. Okay. Surfer. And he still volunteered with Orca when his workload allowed it. Honestly, I don't think that would ever change. As an adult, Cove was also able to recognize and have diagnosed that he was on the autism spectrum. Amazing, because I read about that online, but I didn't know it was canon in the game. Like, I knew that the developers said it was canon, but I didn't know it was in the game. I love that for him. Oh my gosh. Good job, Cove. It was something that hadn't been noticed by his doctors as a child, but he was still the same Cove he always was to you, and he was just glad to understand himself better. So valid. It thrilled you to see how happy and successful he'd grown up to be. On the whole, life continued its steady beat forward, and you all went with it down the paths you chose. It was strange and wonderful. But no matter how old you got, how far you roamed, or how long you were away, the home you had in Sunset Bird still called back to you, eventually. Sure, that's what I read. The car rumbled down the highway. You had started to zone out when a truck in the left lane loudly zoomed past. Your driver didn't remark on it, just like anything else this trip. You went back to staring out the window, letting the scenery pass you by. You did appreciate the spacious back seat of your ride. You hadn't known exactly when you would be coming in, so you had decided to use a ride app rather than ask your moms to pick you up, okay? It had turned out to be a convenient choice. You looked forward to surprising your parents at the door. You smiled at the thought of their faces lighting up. Luckily, this hadn't been that big of a trip for you. You lived close enough that the travel hadn't turned into a big production. However, that didn't make the occasion mundane. For once, your moms had decided to have a modest celebration dinner for their anniversary. Okay. Unlike when you were growing up and they preferred not to make a big deal out of it, this year they were comfortable having a party. Love that for them. As time went on, they had found being the center of attention easier to handle. You were happy to see it. With this going on, there was no way that either you or Liz would miss your mom's anniversary. Both of you made plans to come back home for it. You didn't hear from Liz about her exact schedule, but you hadn't shared yours either. It reminded you of when you were kids and both knew to show up for dinner, but didn't keep each other in the loop for each other's pre-dinner plans. This was the same concept, after all. Some things stayed the same, and yet it was definitely different from when you would see your sister every day and knew what sort of what she was doing anyway from osmosis. Today, you had no idea. Things were always changing. You mused on how, at times, it was hard to believe that you didn't live with your parents anymore, and yet you also couldn't imagine going back and living as a kid under their rules. The rest of the drive flew by. Your silent driver provided a smooth ride. No sharp turns or hard stops jostled you out of your own head. Your thoughts turned from introspective to observant. The landscape passing by became more and more familiar. You frequently recognized the landmarks that dotted the area. A grin came to your face as you passed the "Now Entering" sign for Sunset Bird. Excitement built within you. You were really here. You were doing this. Your driver turned off on a street, and you realized that their map program was taking you the way home that Ma preferred. You usually would have used the other side street to pass by the beach. In no time at all, the car had gone through the whole town and pulled in front of your mom's condo. The car slowed to a stop and parked. With the buzz of the highway gone, you realized that you could hear the familiar sound of waves. The air smelled like salt, and a rush of childhood memories flooded back. You started to gather your things and humming to yourself once more about how happy your moms would be to see you. After that, you'd notify everyone else that you'd made the trip safely. You pulled over your suitcase from the other seat and yanked out your bag from down near your feet. Tap, tap. You startled at the sudden sound of tapping on glass. It caused you to pause. Did you really hear what you thought you did? You weren't entirely sure because you soon heard something else. The window on the opposite side of the car rolling down. It confused you, until you put it together that despite the driver's silence, you weren't actually alone in the car. The driver must have pressed the button. Someone had to be there. You turned your head to face the now open window. My favorite CG that I've seen online. Holy fuck. Let's all look at it without the text. I haven't even read a single word of the text yet. Cove Holden prostitute era. That's a joke, but you know how they like lean into the window and boy, what are your prices? It's okay, I'll pay them anyway. There he was, leaning his arms across the window. Your beloved Cove Holden. Okay. He beamed at you with one of his precious open smiles. What I want to know is, if we live together, like I said, why did we come here separate? What was going on? Hey, Kit. What a surprise this is. I didn't expect to see you in this neighborhood. He was joking, of course. Seeing your expression, he decided to push it further. It's not- hold on. Did you see that? Look at that face. Oh my god. Okay, what button am I pressing? It's not like I've been waiting for you out here all morning or anything. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. He chuckled at your apology and inclined his head. Don't worry about it. He then gripped the top of the car door and pushed half of his torso through the opening. That was enough to make the driver break their silence with a sharp "Hey." Cove did not seem to notice and continued climbing in through the window. Of the car? It's not even... He pushed one hand down into the middle seat to prop his dangling body up. He used his other hand to caress his... Bro. Shut up. Shut up. Are you kidding me? Get back out that window. Legitimately this time. The one time I'm being serious. I don't know. You're so gross. Get away from me. Your position didn't quite allow for you to hold his hand, but you enjoyed the touch all the same. Meanwhile, you noticed that Cove had started to shake. His balancing act was becoming highly unstable. You saw his arm wobble and wondered if he'd have an accidental head dive onto your bag. Get out the window. Yes. I like this one too. I really should have expected this. You and your windows. I'm gonna say that one. I promise this was unplanned. You just... Okay. I know. Still doesn't make a difference. Cove's smile turned awkward as his arm started to bend lower, causing his body to slide downwards with it. He turned his head to the driver. Sorry, I'm always causing trouble in this neighborhood. Cove shifted around some more and squirmed back the way he came. After he had successfully pushed off the window and landed on the pavement with a thump, you opened your car door. You bitch. You threaded your arms to the various straps of your bags and climbed out. Cove took a few long strides around the back of the car and quickly met you on your side. So, there's so much beige going on here. Okay. Cove stood in front of you, and it struck you that the two of you were back in Sunset Bird, reunited once again on this street. Again, as I said, I don't know why... Okay. I love the thought process of a high five. Then you switched your hand to a fist bump mid-gesture. Yes. Cove went for the high five. You switched it up so that your hands made a turkey shape. He looked from his open hand against your closed fist and laughed. Gobble, gobble. You were ecstatic to be around him again and absolutely thrilled that it was here in this town where you were together. Even if it had only been a short time since you had seen him off, you had still missed Cove greatly. It somehow felt a lot longer. Given your different schedules and travel availabilities, it had worked out better for Cove to head out to Sunset Bird first. He only arrived the evening before, however, and secured the hotel room. Okay. Hotel room? Until now, you'd never have to deal with that inconvenience of being in a tourist-heavy area. It was a fight to get a place to stay close by during the heat of the summer vacation season. Living without him at your place was strange. Cove was basically a part of you at this point. You were glad to feel whole again. Oh. You idly shift your luggage, then it struck to you. Oh, okay. I thought it said that I was short as in, like, tall. I was like, oh, I'm short, fuck. It struck you that you were short one of your pieces of luggage. You got out in such a hurry it was left behind. You reached back into the car to pull it out. Cove stood aside as you made a dash for the door. You shouldered the small bag and felt relief that you would be able to brush your teeth tonight. Woo. Got everything this time? You stood up straight, everything truly gathered up and out of the car. You gave the back seat one last glance, and then nodded. Cove shut the car door after you had moved out of the way. The two of you stepped off the street to give the driver some room. Cove waved. Sorry again. The driver said nothing and drove off. I'm gonna get a bad rating on whatever rideshare app I just used. With the road clear, you let your gaze drift across the neighborhood that you had known forever. It was such a small place to spend so many days. You were flooded with memories of going up and down this street during every stage of your life. Being a little kid, following your big sister to the playground, becoming a teen and staying out later, and growing into an adult who left their parents' house behind to be independent, somewhat. You could feel the summer sun on your skin from all the times you headed out to the beach. You saw the same surroundings that you as a young adult did when leaving home. It was hard to quantify the amount of history you had here. And now you were back. Despite taking in the neighborhood again, you never lost awareness of Cove's presence. From the corner of your eye, seeing him there was a very familiar sight as well. So many of your memories included him. Your mind drifted from the neighborhood itself to the person who used to live there. You couldn't help but feel the nostalgia. You still remembered his... Sure, you still remembered his face, his voice, the scar on his arm from days long gone. He had changed so much since you had first met him. Yet, even with those changes, he was always recognizable. He was familiar like the sky was in the way you knew the sea. Every day they may appear different, but they're still an inextricable part of life. It was the world, with the help from Mr. Holden and his ill-thought $20 bill, that brought you together to begin with, but the two of you had chosen each other. You had never let your interactions fade. You had decided to nurture your relationship into what it was, and you would continue to keep Cove close into all the rest of your adult years. Cove was the partner you wanted for life. Gross. You couldn't be more grateful to call him your boyfriend. It would be impossible to imagine life without him. Cove noticed you staring at him after a while and smiled with his eyebrows rising in curiosity. He was very transparent in his question if there was something you wanted to say. You shook your head and returned him a soft expression. You let yourself get carried away in a tide of memories, but now it was time to focus on the present. No time like now. Let's go see my moms. I'm nervous, because last time we saw them after a time skip, they were old, and I'm nervous they're gonna be older. Cove nodded and then pointed at all your luggage bundled around your legs. Can I help with any of that? Yeah, sure. You gratefully passed him a bag. It was a lot easier to balance everything with that out of the way. He used both hands to take hold of the one piece of luggage and stood tall, pleased to be able to provide his assistance. The bag situation resolved, the two of you strolled over to the Thicket residence door. You started to pat your pockets instinctively, only to realize that you no longer carried a key to the house. That's sad. Your eyes scanned the entryway, a little lost, only to spy the doorbell. The thought of having to ring it felt super weird. As you pressed the inconveniently placed button on the side wall, you remember that no matter how much this place would always be a home to you, it wasn't where you lived. Being back here was like putting on a uniform after you quit the store where it came from. It had remained the same, but your circumstance had changed. Cove shifted on his feet awkwardly, obviously also thrown about you being stuck out here. Keyless. You heard muffled voices and shuffling around from inside. Your heartbeat sped up in anticipation. The door swung open, and there was your mom's smiling face. She immediately brightened at seeing you standing there. Well, well, well. Mom twisted her head back and gave a shout down the hall. Lonnie, guess who's here? There were more distant voices, no doubt Ma getting up from wherever she was to come see. Her high-spirited words rang out clearly. I hope it's one of my children. Mom snickered, still holding the door only half open to hide you for a little longer. Cove flushed, as if suddenly realizing that he was going to be present for your mom's enthusiastic welcoming of you. You smiled to reassure him that he wasn't intruding. Ma finally reached the door and peered over Mom's shoulder. Okay. I like it. Okay. It is. Hello, Kit. She gave you a once-over, patting the tops of your shoulders and moving down the side of your arms, before she nodded in satisfaction that you were in one piece. This is a wonderful surprise. Ma inclined her head to Cove next, not leaving him out either. Hello, sweetie. You count as one of my kids at this point anyway. I have double the surprise today. Oh, yeah. You grinned at your parents and laughed. You missed their presence so much. Cove bashfully waved at them. He hadn't relaxed fully, but he had settled down at their welcome. Well, don't just stand out there. Come on in. Your mom moved aside and held open the door for you, gesturing for you to enter. How has the house changed? Okay. We have, hot crossed buns. What are those? And some sort of vegetable ready for chopping. I don't know what that is. You stepped into the living room. It was comfortable and cool. Cove was a half step behind you, his eyes on a new painting your mom's must have added since the last time you were here. Things were mostly the same, but there were more decorations since you had seen the house last. Yeah. Mom may have gotten the urge for some interior designing again. It struck you how odd it was to be the guest, only observing their choices for the living space here rather than a full-time occupant. Ma came up in front of you, excitement in her eyes. I'm so glad you're here. You know your mom and I would have been happy to pick you up, but you're self-sufficient and responsible. That's okay. What matters is that you arrived safely. Mom appeared at her side with a nod. Welcome back, kiddos. You appreciated that your parents respected you as an adult, even if Mom still called you kiddo. You figured long ago that you'd always be her kiddo, no matter how grown you became. It was part of the whole parent-child deal with her. I will hug them. You took another step forward and pulled Mom and Ma into a great big hug, squeezing them tight. Their arms wrapped around you in return, and you could feel their love for you in their embrace. I will say I missed you both. We missed you too, Kit. It's always nice when I'm able to come by. Your mom's giggled, pleased. So how's it been? I hope you've been good, getting enough excitement and all that. Speaking of exciting things, your anniversary dinner. Is everything all set for that? We're happy to help if there's something we can do. We've been plenty fine. It's been a little quiet, but that's not a bad thing. Mom placed her arm around Ma's shoulder and gave her a side hug. Don't worry about the party. We're just planning to eat at the Cypress, nothing fancy. Which is kind of a funny thing to say about a pretty fancy country club. The biggest issue has just been making sure everyone could make it for the day. Speaking of which, Liz will be arriving tonight. We're planning on picking her up later. Damn, not self-sufficient enough that she could take herself here. Oof. I guess Liz isn't as grown up as Kit. Yes. Mom snickered at her own joke and Ma lightly elbowed her with a barely hidden grin. Shush. As I was saying, we could drop you off wherever you're staying if you don't mind waiting for that. I'm sorry there's not space for you in the house. It's gotten crowded in these old rooms since you and Liz moved out. I don't know where all this stuff keeps coming from. Sure you don't, Pamela. Okay, Cove already has a hotel room I'm gonna be staying in anyway. Okay. I like that it's very specifically Cove's hotel room. I just so happen to be staying in it. Cove sent you some pictures of the place when he arrived. Stylish and roomy, it seemed very nice. Cove, you know I'm gonna force you into it. He claimed that the bed was comfortable, so you had high hopes about that, though mostly you were looking forward to having him. Your mom smiled, relieved. Kyra's already here, isn't she? She directed her question at Cove. He bobbed his head a bit to go along with his reply. Yeah, I heard she made it. She's gonna be staying with Dad while she's in town. Have you gone over and said hello yet? Cove chuckled self-consciously, and this time he shook his head. He raised an eyebrow since you had figured he would have taken a chance while waiting for you. Not yet. I should go do that now. I just wanted Kit to be there too. He caught your eye with an adoring smile. Gross. Mom laughed at that, no doubt thinking that Cove was sweet but ridiculous. Nice to know your priorities. Yeah. Cove awkwardly rubbed his arm and shifted on his feet, looking all too much like he did as a kid. Kit, do you want to go over to my house now? It's a good idea. We won't be leaving until late evening. Yeah, let's go for it. Cove perked back up, excited once more. We'll keep an eye out on your things while you're gone. There's no reason to be carrying all that around. You set down your bags in the living room, tucked into a corner where they wouldn't be in the way. Cove helped. Your moms waved the two of you off as you walked back to the entranceway. Thanks. See you soon. You waved back and opened the front door for Cove. With that, you were on your way to see Cove's family next. This trip had put a special little pep in Cove's steps as you crossed the street to his dad's house together. Your spirits were equally high. Doing this, you felt like a teen again. You had known Cove's parents for a long time now. When it came to what you called his dad, I feel like I've always, in my head, said Cliff. Even though in-game it's always been Mr. Holden. In my head. Though it was awkward on your tongue at first, it rolled off comfortably now. You appreciated how much he saw you as an adult and a friend, and not just a kid from across the street. For his mom. You called her Mom 3 in a non-serious way. I would not do that. I would call her Kyra. She always preferred that even when you were still just a kid. Honestly, you couldn't imagine calling her anything else. Cove hopped up to the front door and didn't bother knocking. He twisted the knob and it swung open. Okay. With a grin, Cove gave you a gratified thumbs up. You shook your head with disapproval, but you both knew that you hypocritically supported his behavior. Your dad is lucky we aren't criminals. He brushed your comment aside and went right into his old home. Cliff was there, standing in the kitchen and babysitting a pan on the stove. I don't know that anything's changed. It's been a while since I was here. That table, maybe, in the background? Don't know. First of all, you were both way too close to me for comfort. Secondly, that hairstyle's not the best thing I've ever seen on you. But his head turned at the sound of footsteps, and he brightened instantly at the sight of you both. Cove matched his enthusiasm instantly. If it was anyone else, you would have thought he was lighting up with a childlike joy over seeing his dad again. But since you knew what Cove was actually like as a kid, you were aware that this level of happiness with Cliff was definitely not equivalent to any childhood feelings of his. Damn. Dad. Cove. Cliff graciously pushed what he was cooking to a different burner and flipped off the heat. He rushed over to you both. Cove flew forward and met him halfway in a hug. That's cute. Cove squished his eyes shut and held his dad in a tight hug. Cliff soothingly rubbed his son's back. The more of an adult Cove became, the more he turned into a big daddy's boy, it seemed. I missed you. I missed you too. It was sweet. And teasing aside, it was wonderful to see them at this place in their relationship after years of struggling to connect. When the hug broke, Cliff hooked an arm around his son's neck. He let out a deep laugh. I still can't believe you outgrew me, you tall fuck. I really thought I had that on him after he graduated from high school, but then he had to just keep going. Chuckling, he shook his fist in mock anger. Cove ducked his head and laughed in kind. Sorry, Dad. Cove's cheeks turned pink and he averted his eyes. He was becoming bashful, so you knew he had more he wanted to say. Cove softly added, but I was raised really well. His dad's expression instantly crumbled with emotion. He sniffled. Cove put an arm around him too and hugged him into a side hug. You observed their little reunion fondly, happy to let them enjoy their moment. They were a perfect pair of sentimentality. Cliff eventually turned his attention to you. Hi, Kit. So great to see you. He pulled away from Cove and approached you with a little wave. He was back to his cheery self. None of these are really much different. Hi. I will also wave. Excited, the words burst from you like a firecracker. You hopped forward with a big wave and his head tilted back, roaring with happy laughter. I missed having you around. Nodding, you could feel a warm blush rising in your face. It felt good being back home. Cliff cleared his throat, pulling attention to himself. He crossed his arms. But before we get too carried away, it's not a real reunion yet. Kyra's still in the guest suite. I'll go get her. He eagerly bolted down the hall, and you could hear every step he took. It ended with a distinct knock. Kyra, they're here. It was only seconds before there was the sound of a door being yanked open. The pounding of feet hitting the wood floor grew even louder this time. They're so cute. I love them so much. I love this. This is good. My baby! Next to you, Cove let out a nervous laugh. His parents entered the living room, and Kyra stretched her arms out wide when she spotted you both. Cove went to her easily. What? These two are the same. You went in for the hug. You opened your own arms up for a big hug. You raised your arms to pass. Nope. Or you just shook your head no. What is the difference between these two? She pulled you tightly into her arms with Cove, simultaneously. You were squished, but felt every bit of love Kyra held in her heart for both of you. Cove wrapped his free arm around her, too. He rested his head on top of her and let out a happy sigh. After a moment, Kyra let go and pulled back to get a better look at your faces. She surveyed every inch of them and appeared satisfied. Yes, we are in one piece. Pat pat. You're both looking well. That's wonderful, and just what I like to see. Thanks. And hi, Mom. You look great too. Girl. One day soon I'll let you in on my secrets. Oh, okay. Kyra winked, and you had zero doubts that she held precious knowledge to looking your best. She was stunning every single time you saw her. I'd be honored. So, you put your hands on your hips, your gaze sliding from one to the other. How have you both been doing since I last saw you? Any good stories? Kyra gave a nod for Cliff to go first. Cheerfully, he waved a hand. Oh, same old, same old. Still got the shop, still got my friends and family, of course, and still the most exciting thing around here is seeing who will rent that one free condo. Is it this time? Incredible. I always knew you were such a snore. They snickered, and you couldn't help but peek at Cove. He rolled his eyes dramatically, drawing out a few giggles from you, but the whole time there was still a happy smile fixed on his face. For me, things have been good. I've gotten a lot of interesting assignments lately. Oh, I recently went to Seattle, and... Kyra twirled a strand of her hair shyly, and her mouth curved into a grin. Whatever she was thinking about, it made her happy. Things have still been going well with that guy from work, but it's a little early to bring him all the way to California to meet the family. Kyra. Okay. Cove crossed his arms. He and his dad nodded. It was clear she appreciated the acceptance from her two boys. That's great. Kyra perked up at your reaction. She was clearly grateful for your approval as well. So that's us. Do you two have plans for your first day back? The only thing I have to do is pick up Liz later tonight before we head back to our hotel room. Great, great. He suddenly looked over his shoulder, his eyebrows pushed together. I'm glad you're here, but I just remembered that I was in the middle of cooking something. Only a small cackle escaped you when you fought off the giant grin taking over your face. Meanwhile, Cove erupted into laughter that had his dad shaking his head. That's fine, Dad. Go salvage what you can. I think it'd be nice to explore the old neighborhood for a while anyway, since we've got the time. Cove directed the last part to you as he spoke, hoping that you'd want to go with him. You nodded automatically. You were already looking forward to it. That's a perfect idea. I think so too. You should go enjoy the day. I'll hang back here so I won't be a third wheel, and someone's got to keep an eye on Cliff before he catches the whole kitchen on fire. Mom, you're not a third wheel. Cove stiffly stuck his arms against his side like a little child. A small smirk tugged at Kyra's mouth. She winked. You know what I mean. Have a good walk. I'll see you both later. Cheerily, Cliff waved before going back to his cooking. Cove smiled warmly. Okay, bye. We'll be back. Bye. Cove trailed behind you as you walked into the welcoming summer sun. He stopped, closing his eyes to stretch his arms in the warm rays. I can't speak tonight. Listen, my feet are never coming off the ground, so this is automatically no, and I'm not strong enough for that. I will accept it if you start it. Glancing at him, you saw the dusting of pink in his cheeks deepen. You intertwined your fingers with his and pressed into his shoulder. Naturally, you found yourself heading down the road towards the beach. Your spirits rose even higher as you strolled across the sand, heading for the shopping district. Arriving, you wove past tourists who were taking in the sights for the very first time. Being a local was a badge of honor you wore proudly. You casually walked past the shops. Over the years, some had closed down, but many of the stalls were still exactly the same as they were when you were little. Cove snapped his head as far as it would go to one side, so dramatically you couldn't have missed it. Something clearly caught his eye, but you couldn't see it. There's a pretzel stand open today. Can we get one? Oh boy. When his gaze found you again, he wore the biggest smile. You chuckled. Yeah, we can. You fondly thought about retracting your previous thought. Cove is beaming now. You're gonna get the one that comes with the little frosting cup, aren't you? That's right. After that, you both happily made your way over, being pulled in faster by that delicious aroma of the stall. With that, you changed course to the pretzel stand for a snack break. Cove was very pleased by the morsel he picked up, and that was good to see. The sun arced across the sky as you went back and down the road as a pair. By the time you returned to the beach, day was beginning to fade into night. Cove kicked his shoes off, tossing them into the sand. He wanted to get his feet wet in the waves as fast as possible, of course. I could go either way. I will avoid. Intent, you watched Cove wade ankle deep. You could already imagine how he was wiggling his toes far into the sand. Cove sighed contently. He followed his line of sight to the setting sun, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. It really feels like summer now. He wore a bent smile when he turned to you. The light illuminated like a halo behind him, and the sight took your breath away. In fact, it's hard to think of anything that feels more perfectly summer than moments exactly like this. Being here at sunset and Sunset Bird with you. I'm so glad we were both able to come visit, but I do like our living situation now over just being neighbors. Agreeing with Cove, you made an okay sign with one hand. You felt your heart flutter in your chest. Your smile quickly stretched ear to ear. I'm happy too. The last rays of sunlight glittered on the water, mesmerizing you. You couldn't help but feel like this was exactly where you both belonged right now. Cove murmured quietly, losing himself in his thoughts again. Shortly after, you saw his hand shoot down into the sand. He stood straight back up with a lopsided smile and got to work brushing the sand off of his prize. You knew without a single word, Cove found a new shell for your collection. As you wandered down the beach, Cove followed at your side in comfortable silence. Your shadows stretched along the sand like they were leading the way. The only noise you could hear were the soft footfalls of your feet and the waves gently rocking into the shore. For a moment in time, it felt like there was only the two of you in your own little world. Eventually, the bubble popped when you realized that your phone was going off. It was Ma, hoping that you were going to be back soon. Curious, Cove's eyes slid down to your phone. You let your hand fall back down to your side. You held the phone pressed against the palm of your hand. It's Ma, she wants to know when we'll be there. Cove scratched the back of his neck and shook his head. His mouth twitched like he just had a funny thought. Dang parents, always trying to make us come home before it gets too dark. I really want to go full Jeremy and see what it goes. Parents are such a pain. A dramatic sigh escaped you. Cove glanced up at the darkening sky and let out a small chuckle. It really can be sometimes, but it'll be nice to visit with them for a while. Yeah, it will be. After one last glance, you put your phone away again. Cove gave a small shrug. Ready? Yeah. Let's go. Together, you left the beach, feeling the call of home pulling you forward. The both of you ran towards your mom's house, leaving the waves behind, but welcoming the beginning of summer. Cove and you ran up from the beach, sand flying from your steps. Cove made it to the road first, but you managed to catch up to him by the time you reached the house. It wasn't exactly a race, and yet it also wasn't not a competition. Both of you were laughing by the time you bumbled through your old front door together. You inhaled deeply and shouted loud enough to be heard anywhere in the house. We're here. Your moms were seated in the living room. Not very far at all. Their eyes sparkled as they locked on you and your light dusting of sand. Welcome home. Mom leaned forward, eyebrows raised at your jubilant entrance. Ma sighed wistfully. That brings back memories. Cove chuckled shyly as he scratched the back of his head. I hope we're not too late. No, you're just in time, but you better start packing it up. Liz will be waiting. Ma nodded as she stood from her seat. She lightly ran her fingers over her clothes to smooth out the wrinkles. It took you a second to remember where you had put your stuff. You needed to get it all in the car so you could get everything back to your hotel. Can I help? You shrugged and directed him to your bags. With Cove, your mom's, and yourself on the job, it only took one trip to the car to get everything. Cove firmly closed the trunk and you thanked everyone for the assistance. Of course, kiddo. Come along, Thicket family, let's get in the car. Go on, Cove, let's go. You've been part of the Thicket family for years. Thanks. Exactly. Well said, Kit. Cove climbed into the back seat with a decidedly touched expression on his face. You got in on the other side. When everyone was situated and buckled, the engine was started and Ma pulled out onto the street. You couldn't help but feel amused to be stuck in the back seat with Cove, your mom was driving you around. It really was like you were little kids again. Cove caught you staring at him and gave you a bent smile. He was probably on the same wavelength as you from the sheer mischief in it. There was some light chatting on the drive. No one brought up anything too deep, and it mostly became swapping jokey stories. The entire trip was marked by a heavy sense of anticipation. Everyone was ecstatic to see Liz and hear what she had been up to. When you neared the airport, Mom pulled out her phone to call Liz. Ma followed the signs to the correct pickup area and asked you to shout if you saw your sister. Ah! Yeah, Liz, we're at Wing B. There's a blue sign that says North America. Tell her that we're right in front of the building with blue windows. She says that she's outside right by a yellow truck. I see at least 3 yellow trucks. I think they're doing work at the airport. The back and forth continued, with Ma driving around in the wide, circular airport road while Mom attempted coordination between her and Liz's location. Aha! You leaned forward, peering out of the front of the car. A tall, poised silhouette pulled a pale purple roll-along suitcase behind her. It was definitely Liz. She waved to the car. Ma parked along the sidewalk next to her, and Mom put her phone away with a cheer. Mission accomplished, team. Good job. Ma excitedly reached over to grasp Mom's raised hand, thrilled that the both of her kids were back. That's right. Liz came closer and yanked open the back door beside her. She popped her head into the car, her smile ornery despite how tired she appeared. It must have been a long trip for her, yet her expression was the same familiar smirk that you had grown up with. Okay. Hello, children. I'm back. Hey, old grandparent who doesn't have any kids. Rude, you shouldn't speak to your elders like that. I will hug her. You quickly unbuckled. You quickly unbuckled and then launched yourself at your sister. She wrapped her arms around you and squeezed. Well, hi to you too, kiddo. Hello, sweetie. It's so nice that you're here. Hi, Elizabeth. He jokingly huffed at her. We're not children. Whatever you say, baby boy. She turned her gaze back to Mom and Mom. You really know how to make someone feel appreciated. Her spirits were high. You could tell that she was just as happy to be here as everyone was to see her. She left the door open, but ducked out to walk around to the back of the car. She opened the trunk and lifted her luggage in. I'm gonna move your junk, Kit. I'll keep it in front of my bag so you can get it later. Mom's dropping you off first, right? Yeah, but that's not junk, it's important. Liz slammed the trunk closed without responding. Liz swung around to the open door. You noticed that her hair had a few flyaways, no doubt from a long day of traveling. She leaned against the frame of the car, giving you and Cove a significant look. I am not sitting in the middle. I already had 5 hours of that nightmare on the flight. There's no way I'm getting in between the two of you. I mean, really, who would ever want to be the person pulling Cove Holden and thick Kit thicket apart? Messed up my own name. Cove puffed up indignantly, yet again at her classic tease of your relationship. Liz continued along like she didn't notice. I don't care how you decide who's scooting, I figure you can fight it out somehow. Cove glanced over at you and shrugged. He unbuckled his seatbelt and moved to the middle. I was going to move to the middle. I was going to move to the middle because I'm a short fuck and that means I always have to sit in the middle. Really? You're such a good person. Thanks. No problem. I'm almost disappointed it was so easy. I meant it when I said we weren't children anymore. It's just the middle seat. Liz shrugged, not losing any of her smugness. Keep telling yourself that, and I'll keep taking the window seat. With the window seat open, Liz squished herself into the car and shut the door. When everyone was settled, Ma began to pull out. We're off. Liz crossed her legs, compacting herself slightly. She braced most of her weight on the door behind her instead of sitting up straight. It gave her a little more room. Hopefully we finished the journey. This car's almost as old as we are. And it's still just as good as you are. Oh man, between all the complaining definitely means Liz is back. Or we're equivalent to this junker? You put as much fake hurt into your tone as you could manage. Neither of your moms took you up on your teasing. I feel insulted being compared to this rust bucket. This doesn't even have enough cup holders, Ma. Mom turned up the radio. As the Mom merged onto the highway, the station was familiar, the normal soundtrack for when she had driven you and Liz around town. Liz bounced in her seat, enjoying the classic tune. The song would be old enough to vote at this point if it was a person. That was hard to believe. With Liz, the conversation livened up despite it getting later and later in the night. She told you all about her week and all the travel preparations she made. By the time she made it to the actual tale of travel itself, Liz started chuckling. On the plane, Liz had sat next to a couple of girls who had talked a lot about how well they could read people. Liz recounted their conversation with her in hilarious detail as they had apparently tried to guess her occupation after only shaking her hand. Neither of the girls could agree with one another, and Liz had refused to just tell them. However, the drive to your hotel was only so long. Eventually, your group arrived. You yawned and got out of the car when it stopped. Cove clambered out after you. Liz gave a loud sigh of relief at all the extra space she found herself with. You and Cove grabbed the luggage and then waved off your family after you said your goodbyes. After they left, you and Cove went to go find your room. Okay. You scanned the key card to unlock your hotel room. It sounded out a soft beep, and you turned the handle of the door. The door creaked open, and then you craned your head in to take a look. The The first thing you noticed was the large king-size bed in the middle of the room. It was a prim, modern-looking space. It seemed clean and smelled faintly like floral air freshener. A smile played on Cove's face as he watched you taking in the space. Bed's nice, huh? Which one of us is gonna use it, fucker? Fucker. You can fend for yourself. No. That was a joke. Can we please share the bed? Yes. Thanks. I got a good hotel, didn't I? Do you? Yes. Pat. Looks like your room at Kyre's Point. Cove pouted exaggeratedly. Well, that room was like a good hotel room, so that means that this is a good hotel room. You and Cove continued to chat as you settled in. You unpacked some of your stuff and checked out all the room's amenities. Cove pointed out the mini fridge and started puzzling over what food could be ordered to the room. However, the fact was, you were both exhausted. It didn't take too many yawns before you both changed into your pajamas and called it a day. You had to hunt along the wall to locate the light switch. When you finally found it, you flicked it off with a sense of triumph. Okay. You turned your head over to Cove, who stood behind you in his pajamas. He was cozy and comfortable, but the pieces didn't match. He never minded that. I'm exhausted. We both need our beauty rest. Cove smiled, a soft expression that was adorable. Okay, let's go to sleep. Despite saying that it was bedtime, Cove took a step towards you. He wrapped his arms around your back, and you leaned into his embrace. Man. No, those stay on the floor, Cove. Just as I was about to say, you know, I upped your initiative, and I'm really regretting it now. Do not. What? Still not putting you down, Cove promptly dropped himself backwards. I felt that in my bones. The feet left the ground, and I was like, I'm gonna get fucking thrown. The both of you crashed onto the tight tucked sheets of the hotel bed. He laughed the entire time. Bitch. Cove bounced on the landing and absorbed most of the impact. You laid on his chest, feeling a little jostled. No. Yeah, this is kind of similar to ya bitch. I'll accept it. You shook your head jokingly. His laughter turned into a snort. He smiled up at the ceiling, a thought clearly crystallizing. My dad used to do that kind of thing to me when I was little. Sort of. Nostalgia was clear in his voice. I'm scared to say what my dad used to do to me when I was little. Because if I said my dad used to steamroll me, put all his weight on top of me and just flop like a starfish, I'm scared of what you would do. It was a fond memory, and you felt something warm in your chest. I remember you talking about it when you stayed over at my house as a kid. He'd lift you up really high and then bring you back down. Yeah, I have a cool dad. You made a small noise of understanding that turned into a yawn. When Cove yawned in return, you pulled at the sheets until you were actually under the blankets. What? Do you know why pigeons are called pigeons when they're actually doves? I just want to know personally for myself. Cove blinked at your random tangent. You yawned and continued talking, your sleepy brain happy to info dump. What? Pigeon actually used to refer to a young cheeping bird, not a species like it does now. Cove nodded along as you continued, seeming interested despite the random topic. By the time you finished, he was watching you intently. What am I going on for? What? What was that about? He found it to be charming if the soft look on his face was any indication. I just info dumped about birds. Cove wrapped his arms around you and snuggled next to you. He let out a contented breath. You reached out to hold Cove under one arm, and then used your other hand to comb through his hair. The two of you relaxed into one another, and you knew neither of you would want to be anywhere else. I can't believe we're really here. I still can't believe I just randomly talked about birds. You and Liz and everyone else are going to be here in Sunset Bird again. I was staring at all the scenery going by while we were driving here, and it honestly felt like we never left. He ran a hand down his face. I mean, in some ways it feels like it's been ages and everything's different. Some of that is definitely because I'm staying at a hotel instead of being in my room at Dad's. But yeah. So weird. Cove nodded. He understood completely. I'm looking. A yawn forced an interruption into the statement. Cove was undeterred. I'm looking forward to this. He tucked his head into your neck. He felt his lashes flutter close against your skin. Listen, we're 24 episodes into this, right? You know. If I make gross sounds, you know what you were in for when you watch this. Yeah, I can't wait. I'll see you tomorrow, Kit. His words were a whisper you barely heard. It might not have even been that exactly, you might have just been guessing. Cove always had a habit of mumbling. It was okay either way, whether you heard it or not, or thought you heard. The sentiment was true regardless. Cove would see you tomorrow when he opened his eyes, and the sunlight returned to your hometown of Sunset Bird. You comfortably drifted off to sleep and eagerly awaited seeing Cove tomorrow as well. And then I did that thing again where I just kept recording, and this video ended up being 2 hours and 30 minutes long, which is a lot. So I think that I'm going to end this episode here. This seems like a good time to end it, right? We just fell asleep. A new day is on the horizon. Seems like a good time to pause and do the rest of it in the next episode. But let me tell you, as somebody who has finished the game at this point, I love this game so much, and I'm also so sad that it's over. For me personally, but for you guys, you have one more episode. I liked it a lot, and I am excited for you guys to see the rest of it, so you can see the ending and get to the point I am, where we all can just appreciate this game, because it was so good. But this is where I'm going to leave you guys for now. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you next time for one last episode of Our Life, Beginnings and Always.